Someone's hand is in my hair. It's an oddly nostalgic sensation. When weather gets bad, especially rain, sometimes all you can do is huddle up close to everyone you even kind of trust and hope that the collective pile of body heat will stop you from dying of cold through the night. In the mornings after, sometimes you get all sorts of body parts flopped over your head or your face or your everything else. It's usually not a super great time, but it's better than freezing to death. This is different. There's no uncomfortable feeling of contact with an acquaintance. This is careful, deliberate, soft and loving. Fingers run through my hair slowly, massaging against my scalp and bringing a pleasant comfort to my now-ending rest. Of course, I can tell who it is immediately. I will never forget a soul this bright and warm. "Hi, Lynn," I mumble groggily, opening my eyes. My mother has my head in her lap, grinning that goofy grin of hers as she stares down at me. If the proximity of my revenants and Penelope are any indication, we're still in the immortality research lab. To my surprise, however, Rowan is also here. "Good morning, kiddo," Lynn greets softly. "I'm not a kiddo," I grumble. "I'm a goddess." "Maybe." "Of course you are, honey," Lynn answers agreeably, returning to stroking my hair. I glance around the room, trying in vain to figure out how long I've been unconscious without being able to see the sky. I catch Rowan's eye, and he gives me a nod and smile of greeting while Vitamin laughs on his shoulders, enjoying a piggyback ride. I wave at them both, but decline to get up since I am exhausted and also incredibly comfortable. "What are you two doing here?" I ask. "We're here looking for you, you ridiculous stalk," Lynn answers, flicking my nose. "You ran off by yourself and we were terrified you were dead." "Oh," I blink. "Right. Sorry, it's been a rough few days." She leans over and wraps her arms around me, squeezing me tight. "I know," she says. "I'm glad you're safe." I hug her back, and when she leans back away from me I start to stand up. My body is incredibly sore, so it takes quite a bit of stretching before I really feel awake. Rowan is listening intently to Penelope and Theodora as they exchange heated nerd talk, Margaret backing up Theodora on almost every point. Vitamin just seems happy to be included, mostly because Rowan is doing an impeccable job of not letting how much he's freaked out by having a zombie on his shoulders show on his face. I'm a little disappointed that he has a problem with Vitamin, but I'm definitely happy that he's not letting it impact her day. "So," Lynn starts, strutting up to me and resting her elbow on my head, "are you going to tell me why you suddenly feel like you could eat half the city?" I reach out a tentacle and poke her in the soul, causing her to yelp and jump off of me. "I probably could, if everybody got close enough. Do I really feel that dangerous?" "Honey, if you weren't mine I'd probably turn and run the other way the moment I could feel you," Lynn answers bluntly. "Honestly, you're not as strong as a lot of people I've been close to, but there's something about you that just oozes danger. What have you been doing this whole time? Your friend mentioned the forest?" Penelope glances my way for a brief moment. "Yes, hello Penelope, you are my friend," I taunt her again. She ignores me. "But yeah, I was in the forest. I made a cute little zombie army, ate over 100 souls, collected some eggs, and hopefully sold some high-quality chitin. You know, stress relief I guess." "Holy shit," Lynn responds, blinking in surprise. "That's where you went alone? You're quite the little powerhouse now, huh? Well, I'm glad you're safe." "Speaking of safe," I say, changing the subject, "where are all the kids? If you and Rowan are both here, who's protecting them?" Well, Rowan and I actually ran straight here when we heard you were back, so." "Shit." I quickly glance around the room and grab my spear from the floor. "Well, we gotta go then," I insist, rushing to the stairs. "You realize I killed like 6 gang members, right? The rest of them are going to come after us if they haven't already. The Drockens clearly aren't protecting us anymore, so we have to do it ourselves." Lynn and Rowan jolt in alarm before glancing at each other with embarrassed expressions. "You're right," Lynn admits. "We haven't had any problems since you left, though. I mean, other than the panic of you being gone." "I'll go home with Vita," Rowan volunteers, extracting Vitamin from his shoulders and sitting her on a nearby table. "You can go get that thing Penelope was asking for, Lynn." Lynn nods and gives a thumbs up while I raise an eyebrow. "What thing?" I ask. "I didn't stop working while you were unconscious," Penelope mutters, and considering how exhausted she looks, it's easy to believe her. I need more than raw magical talent if we're going to start growing bodies from nothing. I need your mother to pick me up some materials for a few helpful tools. I nod. Makes sense to me, though I don't have the faintest idea what sort of tools Penelope is talking about. It mostly doesn't matter right now, though. Sounds good, I grunt. Now let's go already, Dad. I quickly start heading up the stairs and Rowan jogs after me. Surprise, awkwardness, and confusion well up inside him for a while before he speaks up. Wait, so I am Dad now? He asks. I thought you were mad at me about all the debt. Of course I am, I grumble. But all your dumb shit doesn't mean you didn't do the good stuff, too. Compared to some of the other dads I know, you're pretty alright. He smirks, ruffling the top of my head as he walks. We'll figure this all out, he promises. The stuff with the Drokans, the stuff with Angeline, all of this. Your friend offered to set us up with a new place to live. I stare at him with eyes wide, locking the door behind us out of habit. Penelope did? That's amazing. She's an amazing young woman, Rowan answers, casually weaving a silence bubble around us. You really lucked out befriending someone like that. Though she definitely has the whole megalomaniacal noble thing going on. Nobles tend to be raised fairly ambitious. I laugh at that. What tipped you off? My first hint was when she got legitimately disappointed at not being able to kill every single monster in the forest all by herself. Well, I had a few suspicions from how she acted around you back when you told her about your talent, Rowan sighs, but the secret immortality research lab definitely clinched it for me. It's pretty cool, though, right? I mostly just like having a place where my revenants won't get caught. About that, Rowan says slowly, did you really adopt one of your own undead? Of course. I answer defiantly. Why shouldn't I? Adopting random monster children is what my parents taught me to do, after all. He snorts, which slowly evolves into full laughter. When his chuckles are over, he reaches an arm over and squeezes me around the shoulder. Lynn and I love you, Vita, he says firmly. You've been such a big help to us, but that's not why. It's just something she and I decided together. We would take in other people who had nothing, who had no one, and we would give them ourselves. You're taking that in somewhat of an odd direction, but we are incredibly proud of you for it. I lean into his side hug, wrapping my own arm around his waist. I can tell you're kind of nervous around her, though, I bring up. Vitamin, I mean. He scratches the back of his head, frowning. Sorry, he answers bluntly. It's not her, it's just. Well, her body is dead. It feels like I'm touching a dead child. That's something I have already had far too much experience with to last a lifetime. I shrug. That's valid. I've brushed up with my fair share of corpses and I think I recall it being a bit less comfortable back before the whole necromancy thing kicked in. Now I rather like the sight and feel of dead flesh, but I shouldn't expect anyone else to. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It doesn't really bother me, but I guess death is my whole thing. Learning to undo it feels weird to me, but I think I can still help a lot. So I will. Slowly but surely, we make our way closer to our part of town. Houses get more and more dilapidated, people get more and more broken. Speaking of your whole thing, Rowan says, changing the subject, I heard something about how your body produces its own mana. Oh yeah, that, I mumble, scratching my cheek with mild embarrassment. So, apparently there's some debate on whether I'm just a monster or if I'm a divine monster somehow. I guess it's a pretty big deal. It is a big deal, Rowan agrees, but more importantly, Vita, I don't want to hear you call yourself a monster. Dad, my soul is an eyeball with tentacles and I have constant urges to fucking eat people. Even if I'm physically human. Vita, it's not about your body or your soul or any of that, Rowan insists, cutting me off. It's about your perception. He taps his forehead with a finger, looking at me intently. Perception is everything. People find whatever truths about themselves that they set out to look for, because everyone has a little bit of everything inside. The grandest saint has dark temptations. The cruelest torturer can still love his family. If you tell yourself you're a monster, those are the only parts of yourself that you will see. And if that's all you see, at some point you'll stop looking for anything else. So don't forget where you come from, Vita. Don't forget your kindness. I grunt in acknowledgement, nodding my head slowly. I'm not totally sure I understand this power of positive thinking garbage, but I'll think about it. Anyway, Rowan continues, I was wondering, since Penelope mentioned your casting is very safe but very low capacity, if you wanted to learn chiromancy? I blink at him in surprise. Learning from Rowan? I mean, yeah, sure. Also, what do you mean by low capacity? He chuckles. That's just what she said. But if that's true, chiromancy would be perfect for you. It's not a very good school of magic for offense, at least not until you get incredibly skilled at it. But some of its best tricks, at least in my opinion, require very low magical output. Besides, my understanding is that you have offense pretty well in hand with your natural talents. That's true. Adding something tricky to my repertoire might be the best way to start with magic. I'm definitely interested in learning biomancy, but it seems redundant with Penelope and, more importantly, it's apparently a phenomenally difficult school of magic to understand. Yeah, that would be awesome actually. I agree. I'd love that. This still doesn't mean you're getting any of my money, th. I shut myself up, tensing as I feel an all too familiar soul enter my range. It's Capita, in all her ramshackle glory. The tri-talented bitch is much, much closer to our home than I'm comfortable with. And with her, she has a half-dozen goons as well. Something the matter? Rowan asks. Yeah, I confirm, drawing my spear and wrapping tendrils around my limbs. Trouble. I'm going on ahead. I dash forward, legs pumping against the ground and kicking up dirt as I blast down an alleyway towards my enemies. I swore to destroy the Drokants in a moment of fury, but I do genuinely believe that it's what I should do. Capita is the only other animancer I know, and while her knowledge could therefore be invaluable to getting Angeline and Penta back from the grave as non-slaves, I don't trust the woman in the slightest. Not unless she's a revenant. The rest of the gang is small potatoes, especially if my family is getting moved. But maybe it will help out some other people to evict them anyway. Or maybe it's just revenge. I guess we'll see when they're gone. I tear around the corner, glaring furiously at my targets as they all turn to face me. Work of art. Capita says excitedly. Our quest takes us in search of you. 'Tis fortunate we have. The last time I said this, I growl, cutting her off, I made the mistake of not really meaning it. I assure you, this time this is your one and only warning. I approach at a walking pace, ensuring my spear is at the ready. Fuck off or die, I demand. Somewhat predictably, no one immediately fucks off. The various goons Capita brought draw weapons instead, mostly wooden knives or the occasional spear of their own. I don't slow my approach. You chase a bear from its den, Capita argues in her sing-song way. Her cubs sleep within, so you'd best. I get in range of her idiots and whip a tentacle into each one. In a single motion, they all fall to the ground dead. Capita is further back, unfortunately, and I doubt I can instantly kill her with a tendril anyway. I continue to approach, stepping over the bodies. I don't care how many of you have pissed on the walls, this is not your territory anymore, I inform her. You're too close to me and mine, and we all quit. She has no response but surprise, her jaw open wide. I pull out a soul shard, pushing power into it to convert it to one of my leeching weapons. Placing it inside my spearhead, I point the tip towards her heart, still walking forward. I want to get closer before she attacks, to try and end it in one blow. I probably don't have to worry about her cognomancy, but her teleportation is a pain in the ass. You dropped your part of the deal the moment my sister died, I continue. You're going to lament it when you work for me. Her eyes narrow at that, power flowing through the pathways of her soul as she readies her talents to fight. Should I be added to your canvas, the wrath of a storm will descend upon you. I sneer, tentacles writhing with furious energy. The instant I think I'm close enough, I lunge at her. Her teleportation talent activates, but this time I'm faster. I manage to land my attack before Capita can teleport away, but she doesn't just stand there and take it. She dodges and I miss her heart, instead planting my spear into her shoulder. Glancing off bone, it carves the blood and muscle above her left arm. The shard in my spear drinks deep, pulling pieces from her poorly cobbled soul and empowering itself with her waning strength. Unfortunately, her talent then activates. I swear internally, expecting her to teleport away, yet for some reason I find my hands unexpectedly empty instead. With a clatter behind me, I realized that instead of retreating, she teleported my spear right after it hit her. Kind of an odd move, but not one that I'll complain about. I push a second hungry shard into my leather glove and punch her in the face. Unfortunately, without piercing her skin, the strike is far less capable of pulling out bits of soul. With no intention of letting up, I grab one of my knives with my other hand while she's still reeling, putting a shard in that as well. Capita glowers at my weapon, and with another flash of her talent, it's suddenly in her hand. I'm in the middle of trying to stab her with it when the transfer occurs, leaving me to smack her impotently while she uses the opening to stab me with my own blade. My soul shard knows better than to drink from me, but the rest of my knife is not so loyal, carving a shallow gouge through my cheek. Shit. I swear, jumping back to the edge of my tentacle range. I sent 4 of my tendrils into her body, grasping and pulling at each half of her soul. I find purchase on the crack in her center, letting me grab and try to yank the damn thing in half. Capita screams, but as I feared, I'm not quite strong enough to kill her outright. The other half of her soul flares with power, the one that holds a talent she threatened me with but never used until now. Whatever it is, I feel the pressure of mana gathering around me. I leap away, trying to make it back to my spear as I feel the spell start to complete inside of her. Something goes wrong. As mana fills the pathways of her soul, it reaches the broken edge of its half as if it expects to find more there, but instead simply bursts through to her core's center. The mana is still gathered, the spell still activates, but it comes out horribly wrong. Capita attacks with only half of a talent, and it works about as well as a bomb with only half the casing. In the spot where I was standing a mere second prior, a screeching roar that nearly bursts my eardrums accompanies a rapid influx of air. Leaves and dirt particles suck upward into the center of the effect, spiraling closer and closer together before colliding together and crushing down to the size of a grain of sand. A wave of pressure vibrates my body for a silent instant, tiny explosions of lightning and flame and sparks of light dancing around the area before a thunderous clap ends it all, knocking me sprawling as I try to make my way back to my weapon. 'Tis a crime to shatter such a priceless piece. Capita shrieks, scrambling to her feet. No wonder I've never seen her use the talent before, she's just as endangered by it. Don't make me, work of art. I ignore her threats, already leaping back in the cognomancer's direction with spear in hand. A tendril empowers my backup knife with a shard as well. She'll probably teleport the spear again, so the knife will be my true attack. Of course, she's still holding my first knife, so I have to worry about not getting stabbed again, but I'll figure it out. Sure enough, power gathers in her soul, specifically the half that teleports. I lunge with my spear, but rather than feeling it vanish from my hand, Capita ducks the strike, stepping in closer with a knife. I start to dodge, and in an instant I realize that's a fatal mistake. The knife is just a feint, and the way I fell for it combined with the failed strike on my end gives Capita the perfect opportunity to plant the palm of her free hand square on my chest. A spell surges, incredible amounts of mana passing into me. It's not the painful kind that rages when caught inside my soul, but simply a spell being cast on my physical body. That doesn't mean that it's any less dangerous, of course. It feels like when Penelope casts a spell to heal me. And I know full well whenever one of those spells enters me, Penelope can just as easily rip my insides apart. I suspect that Capita is not about to be as kind as my ornery biomancer. Thankfully, I know how to resist spells. I can cut off Penelope's attempts at healing, and I just as easily cut off Capita's attempt at teleporting me. With a flex of my soul's power, I fight the energy Capita pours into me and win. The look on her face as I fail to be budged is priceless. Unfortunately, my spell resistance doesn't seem to extend to my stuff. A sudden chill encompasses my entire body as everything within an inch or two of my person is fully affected by the spell and removed. Only my spear is large enough to be outside this radius, and I'm much closer to Capita than I'd like to be in terms of using the polearm. Noticing the new location of my teleported shards as I jump away, I track the distant fluttering of my outfit and gear as it starts its fall from hundreds of feet in the air. A fall that, should I be subject to it, I doubt I'll be surviving. Not that I like my prospects of fighting without armor or even clothes much better. Oh, my. A work of art without its finishing coat of paint. Capita chuckles, also taking the opportunity to jump away and create more distance. Unexpected but not unwanted. Oh good, She's being fucking creepy about it. I grit my teeth, trying not to let my shiver of discomfort slow me down. If she's cracking jokes while I'm trying to murder her, she's a lot less worried than I'd like her to be. Capita has her free hand on her wounded shoulder, trying to slow the flow of blood with pressure. It's not a mortal wound as far as I can tell. Blood from my own cut trickles down the side of my face, and though it's not as severe of an injury as hers, I'm now devoid of protection against someone that can steal my weapons at will. Things aren't going well. "Surrender, please," Capita asks hopefully. I respond by throwing my spear at her. I suspect if I don't, she's just going to teleport it out of my hands anyway. Unfortunately, she not only dodges it but strikes it mid-flight, forcing me to leap out of the way as the flying projectile is suddenly behind me, nearly skewering me through the kidney. The moment I start to move, Capita aims her terrifying second talent at me, starting an implosion in the area I'm about to end up. Thankfully, I know something she doesn't. Before she can complete her partially broken innate spell, an invisible Rowan blasts a gout of fire at the back of her head. Capita's talent sputters and fails as the woman shrieks in agony, diving out of the way as best she can while attempting to stab Rowan in the gut. Of course, she misses catastrophically, Rowan not actually standing anywhere near where the flames originate from. Hair on fire, she immediately drops the dagger and sets to try and extinguish her head, smacking at the flames as she rolls along the ground. I sprint forward, retrieving my spear again as I try and figure out a way to stop it from being teleported out of my hands again. Is there some way to extend magic resistance to nearby objects, perhaps? I rush towards Capita as I try to think, unwilling to give her an opportunity to do the same. A massive amount of power starts gathering into her soul, however. Again, it's the half that makes explosions, not the half that teleports. Why doesn't she just teleport away? "Stop," Capita orders, finally putting out the flames on her head. Her hair is burnt to smithereens, horrible red blisters reminding me of Remus's scars. If I die I shall not die alone. The air all around us gets horribly thick, the threat of a massive amount of destruction hanging openly above our heads. For once, Capita declines to speak in sing-song riddles. She's obviously threatening to kill us all, and unfortunately it looks like she can do it. I hold my approach, staying very still. Maybe Rowan can kill her before. No, it's not worth the risk. Rowan isn't the most skilled thermomancer around, and if he could kill her that quickly he probably would have done it on the first blow. Either that or he purposefully spared her life out of his sense of morality, in which case I can't rely on him anyway. Sure enough, he's making no moves towards her, keeping invisible. I scowl. This is going far worse than I had hoped. I didn't think to plan for Capita teleporting everything except herself. Not that I had a particularly detailed plan coming into this. I just felt her near my home and kind of flipped out. "Why?" Capita cries, staring at me. Quite literally, tears start to form in her eyes. "Why?" "I wanted to be friends with you." The sincerity of those words, combined with just how unexpected they are, has me reeling a little. What? That's so damn ludicrous I've half a mind to assume my senses aren't working. "You brought a bunch of goons to my house after my sister recently died because you wanted to be friends with me?" I ask, shocked at the sheer audacious stupidity of the idea. "I feared the wrath of the artist's work," Capita chokes, "though it would seem my entourage was more gift than guard. I must say, since you have clearly not accepted the gifts as a peace offering, it's rather rude to eat them anyway." "I haven't fucking eaten them," I correct, though I'm certainly tempted to. Time to stall, I suppose. "Well, you have us in a stalemate. What now?" "Now?" the woman asks, seeming genuinely miserable. "Now I think I rather wish to forget all of this. Let us start over, a work of art. When you see me again, kindly do not inform me how utterly I failed." What? Was she going to cognomancy herself into forgetting this entire thing? Is that why she's so nutso? I'm certainly not going to fucking forget, so what would it even accomplish? I don't get much time to be dumbfounded by that, for the mana in the air surges even higher. Holy shit, she's actually going to kill us all. I rush straight at her as fast as I'm able, desperately hoping I can stab her through the head or heart before all that power can be unleashed. Yet I'm too slow, I know I am. This was reckless. I should have never fought her before I can rip her to shreds with one tendril. Rowan and I together almost beat her, But I never guessed her other talent could just smash us into dust. I got arrogant. Again. Yet at the last moment, everything shifts. Power from one side of her soul shunts itself into the other, and Capita grins madly at me as my magic resistance is overwhelmed and everything suddenly vanishes. My ears pop painfully and I'm instantly overcome with a sense of vertigo, my vision flashing yellow. Yellow. The sky is everywhere, without any city walls or trees or even tall people to hamper my view of it. Islands are in every direction, not just up. One droops with verdant greens, massive vines likely the size of entire forests hanging from its sides, swaying in the breeze. Another made of deep red stone, curved spires jutting out of its top and bottom, like claws grasping at the clouds. I can even see the edge of my own island from here, and beyond it, far below, I see hints of the mists that I'm quite thankful to notice are thick today. I get to appreciate this for only the barest instant before I realize I am falling. My body twists and tumbles in the air, a scream escaping my lips as I try and fail to orient myself somehow. There has to be a way to improve my odds of survival. Yet I have nothing, not even a shirt to try and fashion into a shitty parachute. Although I have to wonder as I struggle to stop spinning, will it even matter? I'm above the city, I can tell that much. A city made of stone and clay, sitting in a crater. There's not exactly going to be a soft place to land. As panic fills me, a familiar soul suddenly pops into my range. Though with something subtly wrong with it. Is the work of art falling into a spot of trouble? Capita asks cheerfully. Her hand grabs my shoulder, stabilizing me so that I am merely dropping through the air rather than tumbling through it. We're horrifyingly high up, much further than my gear had been teleported. I don't have the faintest idea when we'll actually hit the ground, although I suspect that will start to become increasingly more apparent the closer I get. Yet with all the terror and anger and peril, one question snaps to my mind first. Where's Rowan? I demand. I can't feel my father anywhere within my soul sense, though for that matter I can't feel the ground either. If he was teleported up here with me, I can't imagine he has a trick to save himself. Not that I do either. Capita merely tilts her head at the question, however. She questions about the gambler? This one knows not, and knows not why you know not. I must admit I feel somewhat chagrined. When I requested you meet with Sky, it seems I should have added clarifications. What? I shriek. The work of art has dressed for success, at least, she murmurs, tapping her chin. Though while the Sky enjoys gazing down at bare mountains of fresh earth each morning, this painting seems less sultry and more terrified. May this simple palette ask what happened? You did this. I snap indignantly, wind rushing around us. I did? She asks. We weren't fighting, were we? I grab onto her shoulders, very nearly thrusting tentacles through her belly to try and rip her soul asunder again, before I realize something. Her shoulders aren't damaged. The wound I gave her is gone. She has no burns, and all her hair is exactly as it was when the fight started. And she's genuinely ignorant of everything that just occurred. Now I think I rather wish to forget all of this. Let us start over, a work of art. Did she actually make herself forget? But how did that heal her? How did that repair her clothing? What the fuck is going on? I swear, if this maniac has 4 talents, I'm going to lose it. What kind of talent would even do this? Rewinding time for herself? I've never even heard of magic like that. Yet I don't know what else it could be. Her soul is the same, I can confirm that. There are a few subtle differences, particularly along the giant crack, but they're the kind of differences that could very much be accounted for by a slight alteration in memory. There's something bugging me, something else that I know is wrong, but I don't really have time to look into it while falling to my death. In fact, it's about time I ditch my entire half-baked plan to murder Capita. At least for now. I'm unarmed, unclothed, and against someone somehow unharmed. I need to figure out quite a few counters before I'm ready to get revenge for Angeline. But I seem to have the opportunity being handed to me, so I may as well take it. No, I lie. You said you would catch me. She brightens immediately, apparently quite worried that I was about to say yes. I did? I did. It would be my pleasure to cradle such a beautiful work of art all the way to the ground. She moves to grab me, and for a moment I almost consider not letting her. I'm fucking naked, after all, and Capita has been more than a little unnerving about it. Which really isn't a joke. I've seen shit happen to other people growing up. But what am I going to do, push her away and die splattered on the stone below? Fortunately, she just loops one arm under my knees and uses the other to support my back, neither her eyes nor fingers wandering as I feel her talents start to activate. Unfortunately, that only replaces my prior worry with a new one. It's the wrong talent. She's not teleporting, she's activating another implosion. What's going on? Have I been tricked? Does Capita know how to send false emotions to my soul sense? I have to. A powerful force suddenly pushes against us from below, slowing the fall. Rather than a chaotic implosion of devastating energy, Capita's talent creates outward explosive force. I look down, watching with surprise as her feet and her back exude a purplish, chaotic torrent that seems barely directed enough to not kill us both. Capita winces as she maintains the spell, but after a tense few minutes we land on a roof. Specifically, one of the many roofs my weapons and armor ended up on, which were fairly easy to find as thankfully the Mistwatcher hasn't eaten the shards I put in them yet. My armor even all landed mostly in the same spot, since the straps were still done up and interconnected when it vanished off of my body. It's fortunate only a few bits and pieces made it to the alleyways below. If anything valuable fell all the way down there, I doubt I would be seeing it again. Capita sits and pants with exhaustion as I briefly appreciate solid ground before quickly gathering what I can and putting the armor back on. Hey, Capita, I say once I'm mostly decent, did you want to be friends? For a moment, her face reminds me of Bentley receiving a compliment. It's so pure and joyful that I nearly regret trying to murder her. Like a pauper wishes to befriend a princess. She insists. I desire it more than with any other, bar the Sky. Sky's gang let my sister die, I remind her. You know that, right? That sobers her real fast. It was not his fault. The man assigned to watch your family took a bribe. We have him in custody, and I will happily arrange transferring further punishment to you. I frown. I think I'd like that, but fault or not, my family worked for you, bled for you, got beaten by you, all in the name of a protection you failed to deliver. Sky fucked it up by having a shitty guard put in charge of upholding it. So our deals are off. I hated him before, and now I don't trust him either. But you should. Capita all but whines. He will fix this city. He will save our home. He will make a place safe for us to live. You have to trust him. I want you both. Why? I ask. Because I'm your work of art? You barely know me, Capita. We've had a handful of interactions and most of them involve threats or mind control. Usually both. She has no apparent response to that, so I continue. What is Sky doing with all the metal he had learned steal? I ask. Her eyes go wide. I cannot tell you that, she stutters. Not even if we're friends? I ask, my own eyes narrowing. She hugs her knees. You won't like it, she mumbles. You won't know until you try, I press, although I expect she's quite right. The woman is insane, and I doubt Sky is much less so. It turns my stomach a little to pretend to be friendly in order to try to abuse that insanity, at least until I remember how she mind-fucked my parents. Seemingly permanently, in Lynn's case, which I guess I fully intend to do right back to her, but that's different. Kind of. Anyway, my prodding seems to do the trick, though the answer I get is one of her asinine riddles. The Sky's wrath comes from above. The Sky's justice comes from below. The rich only get richer until they are made as poor as everything else. He with the soul of a crown will be the only king left to rule. I scowl. That sounds to me like they're going to use the metal to assassinate the king. With that much power it might even be possible. Fortunately, I don't actually give a shit about the king, so whatever. I'm not going to join your gang, and my family is leaving it, I insist. But if you hand over the guy that was supposed to protect us and leave us alone afterwards, I'll consider staying out of your way. Until I'm strong enough to end it in one blow, that is. Capita nods glumly. I just don't want to be apart from you, she mutters. I finally found you after all this time. I raise an eyebrow at that. Found me? Were you looking for me? Well, I didn't think so. Not until I found you, anyway. But now I have, and I know that I was. I scowl. I have no idea where to start poking that. Well, if you quit the gang you can hang out with me as much as you want, I answer, though mostly because I know she won't. I could never. She gasps predictably. Please, please join us. I need you and I need Sky. Why? I ask. Why do you need either of us? I love him, she answers simply. And as for you, to see the work of art that my sketch was for, it shows me my suffering had meaning. That I was not built for nothing. You are the reason. If you help him, then all of me is helping him. Even my pain. I sigh, putting the last of my armor on, securing my weapons, and standing back up. Everyone is built for nothing, Capita, I say simply. We're food on a farm. Don't try to find meaning in the goals of whatever fucked up bastard split two souls in half and glued them to each other. Besides, you've seen me. You really think whoever did your cobbled job also made something like me? Who exactly do you think it is, anyway? She tilts her head. Who would make a work of art, if not an artist? She asks, standing up as well. I snort derisively. Thanks, very helpful. Capita shrugs. I cannot tell you more of something you cannot remember. Perhaps later, we can be friends. I will beseech the Sky to follow your demands. He will not be happy, but I believe we have almost finished gathering what we need regardless. I will do all I can to ensure your family is left alone. And with that, power builds up in her soul and she teleports herself away. I snort. All that, and now she teleports herself. I start to wonder what she meant by not being able to tell me more of something I can't remember, but quickly dismiss the thought. I have much more important things to worry about, now that this conversation/battle to the death is over with. Namely, how the fuck am I going to get off of this roof?